The Iron Dawn. The vastness of space fell silent as the massive human warship dropped out of hyperspace. Its obsidian hull absorbed the faint starlight, making it appear like a moving shadow against the cosmic backdrop. The vessel's name, emblazoned in faded white letters along its side, read HFY Horizon, humanity's last hope. On the command bridge, Captain Maya Chen stood motionless, her weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. 20 years of interstellar warfare had carved lines into her once smooth features, but her eyes remained sharp, focused on the scene unfolding before her. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension hanging in the air. Lieutenant Raj Patel, the ship's tactical officer, responded without looking up from his console. "Stealth systems holding, Captain. No indication that we've been detected yet. The Arcadian fleet is positioned exactly where intelligence said they would be, guarding the approach to Nexus Station." Chen nodded slightly. After years of retreating, watching human colonies fall one after another to the alien coalition known as the Arcadian Harmony, they had finally reached the moment of truth. The horizon carried with it the culmination of desperate human innovation, a weapon that might finally turn the tide. "How much time do we need?" Chen asked, turning to the slender figure working at the science station. Dr. Eliza Wong, the brilliant physicist whose theories had made this mission possible, answered without looking up. "The Spearpoint device requires 18 minutes to achieve full calibration once we're within optimal range. We're currently at 23 minutes from ideal position." "They won't give us 23 minutes once they spot us," Chen replied, studying the tactical display showing dozens of Arcadian vessels arranged in a defensive formation. "We'll have to buy that time." The plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. For 5 years, humanity had been losing a war against the technologically superior Arcadian Harmony, a coalition of 7 alien species united by their belief in cosmic order. To them, humans were an aberration, a species evolving too quickly, thinking too unpredictably. Their doctrine demanded humanity's subjugation or extinction. Now, the Horizon, a ship built in secret using technology reverse-engineered from captured Arcadian vessels, carried humanity's last hope directly into the heart of enemy territory. "Captain," Patel's voice cut through Chen's thoughts, "we're being scanned. Multiple Arcadian vessels are breaking formation and moving to intercept." "So much for the element of surprise." "Battle stations," Chen ordered, her voice carrying throughout the ship via the internal comm system. "Engage defensive protocols. Weapon systems online, but hold fire until my command." Throughout the massive vessel, the crew, each survivor of fallen colonies, each carrying personal reasons to fight, moved with practiced efficiency. The Horizon wasn't just a warship, it was a testament to human resilience. On the Arcadian command vessel, Supreme Commander Thorn Valve observed the human ship with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. His translucent exoskeleton glimmered under the soft lighting of the bridge, 4 compound eyes processing the incoming data simultaneously. "A single human vessel," he remarked to his second-in-command, "approaching the heart of our defense network. Either they are desperate or foolish. Perhaps both." The second-in-command, a towering reptilian being named Seskra, studied the tactical display. "The vessel configuration is unlike any human ship we've encountered before, Supreme Commander. Our sensors detect unusual energy signatures." "It changes nothing," Thornval replied dismissively. "The humans have been defeated. This is merely a final futile gesture. Dispatch 3 cruisers to intercept and destroy it. No communications, no warnings." For 5 years, the Arcadian Harmony had methodically crushed human resistance across 3 star systems. Their technology, refined over millennia of interstellar dominance, had proven superior in nearly every engagement. The humans fought with surprising tenacity, but the outcome had never been in doubt. Back on the Horizon, Chen watched as 3 Arcadian cruisers detached from the main fleet and accelerated toward them. Each cruiser outgunned the Horizon by conventional metrics, and together they represented enough firepower to reduce a small moon to rubble. "They're not bothering to hail us," Chen noted grimly. "Typical Arcadian arrogance." "Enemy vessels charging weapons systems," Paddle reported, his fingers dancing across the tactical console. "Estimated time to firing range, 40 seconds. Chen took a deep breath. "Initialize the Mirage protocol." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, as the Arcadian cruisers closed to firing range, their targeting systems suddenly began registering multiple human vessels, where only one had been moments before. In the Arcadian command center, confusion erupted as sensors showed not one but 7 human warships suddenly appearing. "Impossible," Thornval hissed, his exoskeleton flushing with agitation. "Their technology cannot create such sophisticated sensor ghosts." But these were no ordinary sensor ghosts. The Horizon's revolutionary quantum projection system created physical distortions in spacetime that registered as solid matter on sensors and reflected energy weapons. It was technology that should have been theoretically impossible, yet another example of how humanity's desperate innovation had leapfrogged conventional development paths. The Arcadian cruisers, now confused by multiple targets, split their fire. Energy beams lanced out, most passing harmlessly through projected images, while a few struck the Horizon's reinforced hull. "Shields holding at 87%, reported the defense officer. "Minimal structural damage." "Return fire," Chen ordered. "Target their propulsion systems. We don't need to destroy them, just slow them down." The Horizon's weapon systems, enhanced with principles that the Arcadians had never considered viable, fired with pinpoint accuracy. Energy pulses struck the lead cruiser's engines, causing cascading explosions along its aft section. In the Arcadian command center, Thornval watched in disbelief as one of his cruisers listed helplessly in space, its engines crippled by a single volley from the human vessel. What should have been a simple interception had turned into an embarrassment. "Launch all fighter squadrons," he commanded, anger evident in his voice. "Deploy the full defense fleet. That human vessel must not reach Nexus Station." On the Horizon, Chen received the report with grim satisfaction. "They're committing their forces, exactly as we hoped." "Captain," Dr. Wong interrupted, looking up from her station, "I've detected unusual energy fluctuations from Nexus Station. They may be preparing to activate their dimensional gate." Chen's expression hardened. Nexus Station housed the Arcadians' greatest technological achievement, a stable wormhole generator that allowed them to bring reinforcements from across the galaxy. If they activated it now, the Horizon's mission would fail before it began. "Adjust course," she ordered. "Maximum acceleration toward Nexus Station. We need to get within deployment range before they can stabilize that gate." The Horizon surged forward, its revolutionary propulsion system pushing it to speeds that conventional physics deemed impossible. The quantum bubble surrounding the ship compressed space in front of it and expanded it behind, effectively allowing the massive vessel to surf a wave of distorted reality. The Arcadian fleet responded immediately, hundreds of smaller vessels moving to intercept while the larger capital ships formed a barrier between the Horizon and Nexus Station. What had begun as a simple defense operation was rapidly escalating into a full-scale battle. "They're surrounding us," Paddle reported, his voice tense as the tactical display showed enemy vessels closing from all directions, firing solutions incoming from multiple vectors. Chen stood firm as the first barrage hit the Horizon. The ship shuddered violently, emergency lights flickering as the shields absorbed unprecedented amounts of energy. "Shields at 63%, came the report from the defense station. "We can't sustain this level of bombardment for long, Captain." Chen's eyes remained fixed on Nexus Station, still too far away for their primary mission. "Deploy countermeasures. Activate all defensive batteries. And prepare the Sunburst Protocol." Throughout the ship, crew members exchanged knowing glances. The Sunburst Protocol was a last resort tactic, one that would burn out several key systems, but might give them the opening they needed. As the Arcadian vessels closed in for the kill, Confident in their overwhelming numerical advantage, the horizon suddenly erupted with energy. A pulse of quantum-disrupted space-time expanded outward in all directions, temporarily disabling the weapon and propulsion systems of every Arcadian vessel within range. In the sudden quiet that followed, the horizon accelerated toward Nexus Station, leaving the disabled Arcadian ships drifting in its wake. On the Arcadian command vessel, which had been outside the pulse's range, Thornval watched in stunned silence as nearly half his fleet floated powerless. What manner of weapon was that? He demanded, mandibles clicking in agitation. Seskra had no answer. Our scientists claimed such technology was centuries beyond human capability. Then our scientists were wrong, Thornval replied coldly. Order all remaining vessels to converge on Nexus Station. Whatever the humans are planning, they must not succeed. As the horizon approached its target, the cost of their desperate gambit became evident. Throughout the ship, systems were failing, power fluctuations causing cascading damage. Sunburst Protocol has burned out our secondary power grid, reported Chief Engineer Torres through the comms. We're running on emergency systems only. Shields down to 41% and falling. Chen acknowledged the report with a grim nod. How much longer to optimal deployment range for the Spearpoint device? 7 minutes, Dr. Wong replied, her fingers never stopping their dance across her console as she worked to stabilize the experimental system. But the power fluctuations are affecting calibration. I need stable power. Chen turned to the ship's operations officer. Divert all non-essential power to Dr. Wong's systems. Life support, weapons, propulsion. Everything goes to minimum levels. Throughout the massive vessel, lights dimmed and temperature controls shut down as power was redirected. In the medical bay, doctors continued to work by emergency lighting. In engineering, teams fought to stabilize critical systems while working in near darkness. As the horizon pushed toward its objective, the remaining Arcadian vessels formed a last defensive line. Behind them loomed Nexus Station, a massive structure that housed the technology that had allowed the Arcadian harmony to dominate this sector of the galaxy for millennia. They're preparing a coordinated barrage, Patul warned. Impact in 30 seconds. Chen looked around the bridge at her crew. Survivors all, each having lost homes, families, and worlds to the Arcadian onslaught. This is what we came for, she said simply. Hold the line. For Earth, for all the colonies we've lost, for humanity. As the Arcadian weapons fire approached, the horizon's fate, and perhaps that of humanity itself, hung in the balance. Breaking chains, the combined firepower of the remaining Arcadian fleet converged on the horizon like an avalanche of destructive energy. Inside the human warship, warning klaxons screamed as systems overloaded and failed under the onslaught. Shields failing, shouted the defense officer over the sound of groaning metal and shorting electronics. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Emergency bulkheads engaging. Captain Chen gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered violently. The bridge was bathed in the red glow of emergency lighting, acrid smoke filling the air as consoles sparked and systems failed. Damage report, she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. We're running on auxiliary power, Chief Engineer Torres reported through the crackling comms system. Main propulsion is offline. We've lost weapon systems on the port side. Medical reports 17 casualties, 2 critical. Chen absorbed the information, calculating their chances. The horizon had been designed to take punishment, its hull reinforced with materials and techniques, developed specifically to counter Arcadian weapons. But even the most advanced ship had limits. Distance to optimal deployment position, she asked Dr. Wong, who was working feverishly at her station, protected by emergency force fields as parts of the ceiling had collapsed around her. 3 minutes at current speed, Wong replied, not looking up from her calculations. But Captain, the Spearpoint device is showing instabilities. The power fluctuations have affected the containment field. If we don't stabilize it soon. She didn't need to finish. Everyone on the bridge knew what an unstable Spearpoint device meant. Not just the failure of their mission, but the destruction of the horizon and everyone aboard. On the Arcadian command vessel, Supreme Commander Thornval watched with grim satisfaction as the human ship continued its desperate advance, despite the devastating barrage. "Their shields have failed," he observed. "Yet they press forward. Such futility is almost admirable." Seskra, studying the sensor readings with growing concern, spoke hesitantly. "Supreme Commander, the human vessel is still emanating unusual energy signatures. They are increasing in intensity despite the damage we've inflicted." Thornval's mandibles clicked in annoyance. "What are you suggesting? That this may not be a conventional attack?" Seskra replied. "The humans have demonstrated unexpected technological capabilities already. Perhaps their goal is not what we assume." For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Thornval's compound eyes. The Arcadian harmony had dominated this galaxy for thousands of years by understanding their enemies, predicting their actions. But humans had proven consistently unpredictable, their desperate innovation outpacing logical progression. "Contact Nexus Station," he ordered suddenly. "Tell them to accelerate the dimensional gate activation. We need reinforcements now." Back on the horizon, Captain Chen made her decision. "Divert all remaining power to the spearpoint device," she ordered. "Everything. Life support, artificial gravity, emergency systems. Everything goes to Dr. Wang's project." The executive officer looked alarmed. "Captain, without life support, we'll have about 15 minutes of breathable air." Chen finished for him. "The mission will be over, one way or another, before that becomes an issue." Throughout the massive vessel, the remaining power drained from vital systems, plunging sections of the ship into darkness and silence. Emergency oxygen masks deployed automatically as life support systems shut down. In the freezing cold of powerless sections, crew members continued their duties by the light of emergency chemical lamps. Dr. Wang worked frantically as the additional power flowed to her systems. "Stabilization protocols initiating," she reported. "Containment field strengthening." "But Captain, we're still 2 minutes from optimal position." Chen studied the tactical display, showing the wall of Arcadian vessels between them and Nexus Station. "We won't get any closer," she said grimly. "They'll destroy us first. Deploy from our current position. The effectiveness will be reduced by at least 30%, Wang warned. And the strain on our systems. We have no choice." Chen cut her off. "Deploy the spearpoint device now." Wang hesitated only a moment before entering the command sequence. Throughout the horizon, a deep vibration began to build, not a sound so much as a feeling that penetrated to the bone. On the bridge, displays flickered as power fluctuated wildly. "Device deploying," Wang announced, her voice tight with concentration. Quantum field expanding. On the exterior of the battered warship, a section of the hull retracted, revealing a device unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. It didn't fire a beam or launch a projectile. Instead, it began to glow with an impossible light that seemed to bend and distort the very fabric of space around it. On the Arcadian vessels, sensors began to fail. Communication systems filled with static. Navigation computers displayed impossible readings. Throughout the fleet, confusion spread as officers tried to understand what was happening. In the Arcadian command center, Thornval watched in growing horror as the sensor displays showed a phenomenon that defied understanding. A bubble of altered spacetime expanding from the human vessel, engulfing everything in its path. "What is this?" he demanded, his normally measured voice rising in pitch. "Explain." The science officer, a spindly being with crystalline appendages, responded with uncharacteristic uncertainty. "It appears to be a localized disruption in the quantum field, Supreme Commander. The humans have somehow found a way to alter the fundamental laws of physics within a defined area." "Impossible," Thornval hissed. "Such technology is beyond even our theoretical understanding." "And yet," Seskra observed quietly, "we are witnessing it." As the quantum disruption expanded, it engulfed Arcadian vessel after Arcadian vessel, Ships didn't explode or disintegrate. Something far stranger occurred. Their advanced technology, based on principles that had remained unchanged for millennia, simply ceased to function. Propulsion systems, weapons, communication arrays, all went silent as the quantum field rewrote the laws that governed their operation. On the horizon, Dr. Wong monitored the deployment with growing excitement despite the dire situation. "The spear point is working," she exclaimed. "The quantum disruption is propagating exactly as the simulations predicted." "Time to Nexus Station?" Chen asked, watching as the Arcadian fleet drifted powerless before them. "The field will reach it in approximately 40 seconds, Wong replied. "But Captain, the strain on our systems is critical. The containment field is barely holding." Chief Engineer Torres's voice came through the comms, distorted by static. "Engine room to bridge. We've got cascading failures throughout the power grid. The quantum feedback is frying our systems faster than we can reroute." Chen had expected this. The spearpoint device had always been a one-way ticket, a weapon so powerful that deploying it would likely destroy the vessel that carried it. But if it worked— "Stay the course," she ordered. "All personnel, prepare for emergency protocols." As the quantum disruption field reached Nexus Station, its effect became immediately apparent. The massive structure housing the dimensional gate that had allowed the Arcadian Harmony to maintain their galactic dominance began to experience the same system failures that had crippled their fleet. On the Arcadian command vessel, which had remained just outside the field's range, Thornval watched in disbelief as Nexus Station's power grid failed sector by sector. The dimensional gate, moments away from activation, flickered and died. "They've disabled the gate," Seskra said, mandibles hanging open in shock. "Without destroying it." Thornval's compound eyes narrowed as understanding dawned. That was their objective all along. Not to destroy our forces, but to neutralize our technology. To level the playing field. For thousands of years, the Arcadian Harmony had maintained their dominance through technological superiority. Their dimensional gates allowed them to respond to any threat anywhere in their territory within hours. Their weapons were based on principles that other species couldn't comprehend, let alone counter. But the humans had just changed everything. In a single desperate strike, they had demonstrated that Arcadian technology could be neutralized. The psychological impact would be devastating. Throughout the Harmony, word would spread that the Invincible had been rendered powerless by a single human ship. On the horizon, systems were failing catastrophically as the quantum feedback from the spearpoint device overwhelmed the ship's already damaged infrastructure. "Captain," Torres reported, "the reactor containment is failing. We got maybe 5 minutes before a cascade failure." Chen nodded, having anticipated this outcome from the beginning. "Prepare evacuation protocols. All hands to escape pods." She turned to Dr. Wong, who was still monitoring the spearpoint's effect. "Can we shut it down? Retrieve the technology?" Wong shook her head regretfully. "The device has passed the point of safe deactivation. It's burning itself out, but the process is irreversible. In approximately 12 minutes, it will collapse, taking the quantum disruption field with it. And when that happens," Chen began. "Arcadian technology will function again," Wong confirmed. "But the dimensional gate will require complete recalibration. According to our intelligence, that process takes weeks, even for the Arcadians." Chen allowed herself a small smile. Weeks during which the human resistance forces, scattered throughout the sector, could regroup and strike back against an enemy suddenly deprived of their greatest advantage. "Send the signal to the resistance," she ordered the communications officer. "Operation Spearpoint successful. Window confirmed." Throughout the ship, the evacuation had begun. Crew members made their way to escape pods, carrying what critical data and technology they could salvage. The horizon had always been a sacrifice play, a delivery system for the revolutionary technology that might give humanity a fighting chance. On the bridge, Chen remained at her post, ensuring the evacuation proceeded in an orderly fashion. "Life signs aboard?" she asked as the minutes ticked by. Evacuation 87% complete, the executive officer reported. Remaining life signs concentrated in engineering, medical, and the bridge. Chen nodded. Begin final bridge evacuation. Ensign, set the autopilot to maintain our position relative to Nexus Station. The spear point needs to stay within range until the field collapses naturally. As her bridge crew reluctantly headed for the evacuation pods, Chen looked one last time at the tactical display. The Arcadian fleet drifted powerless, Nexus Station dark against the backdrop of space. For the first time in 5 years of brutal war, humanity had scored a decisive victory. "Captain," the executive officer said from the doorway, "your evacuation pod is ready." Chen nodded, taking one last look at the bridge of the ship that represented humanity's greatest achievement, not just of engineering, but of spirit. Born of desperation, built in secrecy, crewed by survivors, the Horizon had accomplished what seemed impossible. It had given humanity hope. 3 weeks later, Maya Chen stood before the assembled leadership of the human resistance on the hidden base deep within the Ceres asteroid belt. The holographic displays showed the status of the conflict across 3 star systems, and for the first time, the strategic map showed areas of human advance rather than retreat. "The Arcadian response has been fragmented and uncoordinated," reported Admiral Santos, the Resistance's strategic commander. "Without their dimensional gates, they can't rapidly reinforce threatened sectors. Our guerrilla strikes have reclaimed 7 outposts and 2 minor colonies already." Chen nodded, studying the display. The sacrifice of the Horizon had changed everything, not just tactically but psychologically. Throughout human space, resistance cells that had been focusing solely on survival were now launching coordinated offensives. And among the Arcadian harmony, rumors spread of the humans' mysterious weapon, creating fear and uncertainty. "And Nexus Station?" she asked. Still attempting to recalibrate their dimensional gate, Santos replied with satisfaction. "Our latest intelligence suggests they've encountered unexpected difficulties." Dr. Wong, who had survived the Horizon's destruction and been recovered by resistance vessels, smiled thinly. "The quantum disruption field caused more permanent damage than we anticipated. The fundamental principles upon which their gate technology operates have been altered. They're essentially starting from scratch." "What about the spearpoint technology?" asked one of the resistance leaders. "Can we deploy it again?" Wong exchanged glances with Chen before responding. "The Horizon carried the only functioning prototype, but now that we've proven the concept works, we can begin developing the next generation of devices, smaller, more targeted applications." The implications weren't lost on anyone present. The Arcadian harmony had dominated the galaxy through technological superiority. Now, humanity had demonstrated that they could neutralize that advantage, and the balance of power had shifted irrevocably. As the meeting concluded, Chen found herself standing alone before the memorial wall, a tradition carried over from the Horizon, now expanded to honor all those lost in the conflict. Among the newest additions was an image of the Horizon itself, captured moments before its reactor finally failed. "Was it worth it?" asked a voice behind her. Chen turned to find Admiral Santos studying the memorial wall. "The cost, you mean?" Chen replied, thinking of the crew members who hadn't made it to evacuation pods, of the colonies lost before the Horizon's mission, of the billions dead since the Arcadian harmony first appeared in human space. "I don't know if worth it is the right question. It was necessary." Santos nodded slowly. The Arcadians assumed their technological superiority made them invincible. They never considered that desperation might drive us to innovations they couldn't predict. "That's always been humanity's strength," Chen said quietly. "When backed into a corner, we don't accept defeat. We change the rules of the game." Beyond the viewport, Earth glowed blue and white against the blackness of space, still free, still fighting. And for the first time since the war began, the future held not just the prospect of survival, but of victory. In the vast darkness between stars, something had changed. A message was spreading, from system to system, From species to species, the Arcadian harmony, undefeated for millennia, had finally met their match. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.